It's interesting because the Canadian raccoons up here, they seem to like watching a lot of the cooking shows, and they
Uh-huh.
really like eating shoes. So they took the pans, they were cooking them up. They were just, all the shoes. This is
Well,
those crazy Canadian raccoons. They're nuts up here.
well, I think that I've heard they have an affinity for soul food. Hello, everyone. I'm Matthew Hines for Encounters USA. We are your one-stop podcast and YouTube channel for all things alien, Bigfoot, and Dogman. So relax, kick up your feet, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very, very special Encounters USA. We're back in the studio today, and we have got a very special guest. We have Jason Kenzie. Jason, welcome to Encounters USA, first of all.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Well, it's a real honor. Jason, for those of you who don't know, of those 4 or 5 of you who don't know, is described in one of his documentaries as an animal adventurer. So we're going to check into that and find out what exactly that means. But Jason has made a career of working with animals, and he has got some wonderful, wonderful photography, videos, etc., on YouTube and a number of other places. And today we're going to be talking about an exciting development. Jason's coming out on Netflix with a documentary. So I had the opportunity to watch one of his documentaries last night, filmed up in Canada, and it was just fantastic. So, Jason, let me just say, first of all, thank you for doing Encounters USA.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to meet you and talk to you.
Well, yeah, and we're all excited to meet you. So let's not dilly-dally. Let's hear about Jason, and let's just start back at the beginning because we want to find out how somebody gets into being an animal adventurer and then goes looking for Bigfoot, and how that that background reflects on your opinion of what you're looking for as far as Bigfoot and the supernatural. So let's go to I watched one of your documentaries, and it said you started out as you're in England. Well, let's go back, and you start wherever you want to. But at one point, you were in England, and I'd like to get to that.
So I'm an extreme pet photographer, and when I first started doing photography, I was doing weddings and events, and then someone came to me one day and said, "I'd like you to take a picture of my dog," and it blew me away because I'm like, "What? So you want me to photograph your dog? Do you want to be in the photo?" And they said no. So I was confused because I didn't think at the time that people would get their pets photographed. So anyway, I showed up and I did the photo shoot. The dog was adorable. The photo shoot was amazing. And, he was telling me his story about, how, why he loves his dog so much. And I just kind of fell in love with doing pet photography. So after I took the photos, his friends would contact me after seeing the photos I took of his dog, and they wanted me taking pictures of their pets. And then one day, a guy called me up and said, "I have a small caiman. It's like a crocodile or like an alligator in my bathtub, and I would like you to take a photo of him." And I said, "Sure, I can do that." And I told all my friends that I'm going to go meet this guy who has like a small crocodile in his tub, and they didn't believe me. So I went and got myself a video camera so I could videotape the experience, so I can show my friends, "Hey, look, I'm not lying. This is what I'm doing." And I went there. I was able to get so close to the small caiman. It was exciting. And that's when I was hooked. I was hooked into doing a little bit more extreme animals, from kangaroos to wolves to bobcats to tigers, bears, all kinds of different pets that people live with. And then people started flying me around the world to photograph their animals. So I was traveling to England and Amsterdam and Belgium and into Mexico, all over the place, all throughout Canada, all through the United States. And yeah, it was great. I loved it. And that, so I love mysteries and adventure. So I've been outdoors my entire life. I've camped, I've hiked extreme mountains into extreme wilderness. And, I love all this talk about there could be these big hairy creatures roaming around in the BC wilderness. And, I would always hear stories from friends and family and even the First Nations. And that's how I thought to myself, well, you know what? I think I'm going to go out and see if maybe I can find a couple of these big hairy people that live in the forest. Just a couple, because, of course, that's all there is. It's just a couple. No way could there be 1,000 of them.
Okay, so let's just jump back to some of the things that you talked about. So you classify yourself as an extreme and would you say that again? Animal extreme photographer?
Yeah, an extreme pet photographer.
Extreme. So that is not, we're not talking about Fido generally, right?
No.
We're talking about wealthy people that have very exotic pets, correct?
Exactly.
All right. And so that's amazing. So you just went from photographing somebody's dog and how did people know that you were available to photograph these things to begin with?
Well, it all started with the guy that had the caiman in his bathtub. He had friends online that saw the photos that I took, and then I posted the video, and then from there, people like, hey, I like to get my fox photographed, or I'd like to get my snake photographed. I've done some really big snakes. I photographed and filmed one of the largest spiders on the planet, monkeys. And that's how it kind of just word of mouth, and people know that, I've had some people that hired me that didn't want me to tell people about their exotic animals.
Exactly. That was my next question.
Yeah. Sometimes, so I would just go in and I wasn't able to film a pet adventure with me in it. It would just be a video and photos for them, for their collection and for them to show their family and stuff. So, yeah, it was great.
So can I ask you, just kind of a personal level, how big was the caiman? I think I saw it. There's a picture on YouTube. You've got something in a bathtub. Is that it? That was huge.
That's that was a guy in Kelowna that owned 2 10-foot alligators.
Okay.
The caiman was probably about 3.5 feet long.
Is that Cologne, Panama?
No, Kelowna, BC.
Oh, okay. I've never heard
Kelowna.
of
it. It's
well, you guys are just across the border, but it's like you're not even there. So
exactly.
Like no, I'm joking.
Yeah, no, we stay up here with our pet polar bears and our igloos. Yeah, which are great because they melt, and then in the summer they melt, and every winter we have to build bigger and massive igloos.
Yep, and you have to get all the snow out of your boots.
Of course.
Anyway, the thing that you go in the water with, because in Canadian that means boat. Okay, so let's get off of the Canadian thing for 1 second, and we'll hit it a little bit later when we talk about your documentary. But I just want to tell you on the caiman thing, just so you know, when I was in the 82nd Airborne, right, and we trained in Panama. And when we came back from our training, one of the special forces guys down there asked if we'd bring back a caiman, which is totally against the law. So a buddy of mine actually taped it to his stomach, and yep, and came all the way back. Got through. There wasn't really much of a customs check, but came through with a caiman taped to his stomach and gave it to the guy when he got here. So airmail from the 82nd Airborne.
Wow.
So anyway, but yeah, I know what a caiman is, and they're ferocious little rascals.
They can be, yes.
So yeah,
The black caimans are quite large.
Okay, so you are now you're doing your extreme pet photography, and do you have on your documentaries you talk about you have a certain skill. Now you want to talk about that skill you have with animals?
Well, when you photograph or when you interact with so many different animals and the same animals over and over again, you kind of get to read the body language, and you hear stories from the owners about their animals, things that you would not know. And I'm like a sponge. So I suck up all the knowledge. And so I've learned a lot about how the animals, the body language, and, certain things that they do. Like, let's say, what's a good one? So the panther chameleon. Do you know what those are?
Mm-mm.
The panther chameleons are one of the most colorful chameleons in the world. And they're cute and cuddly. They're about maybe that long. They're every color of the rainbow. And what people don't know is the panther chameleon. The reason why they call it a panther chameleon is because they can be pretty aggressive at times, right? So you get people which are putting them on their heads. And, I did this, not realizing that they can be pretty aggressive at times. And that's one of the biggest reasons why they call him the panther chameleon.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not have known this. And I tried doing some research, and maybe now there's information out there, but back when I was doing research on those reptiles, I couldn't find any information about why they call it the panther chameleon until the owner was telling me about what she knew about them. So,
now, I've heard of a chameleon that I think it changes its sex or whatever. I think that's the karma chameleon. Not sure if you've heard that one, but anyway, all right. So moving on, might have to cut that in editing, but all right. So Jason, but would you classify yourself as, I hate to use the term, no, I'm not going to use it. Do you have an affinity for animals? I mean, can you communicate with them?
Well, I don't want to say that I can read their thoughts. But I can read the body language. I can like with dogs especially, I can kind of sense somewhat the kind of moods that they're in. But it's only by the way their fur or their hair stands up, or the way their ears, or the way they just look at you, and the way their tail is. But I can't like just look at a dog and go, "Hey, you just peed on my rug, didn't you?" Yeah, you did. Why? No. And I can't do that. There are some people out there that say that they can do that. I just don't want to be one of them that says that they can.
Well, I'm going to throw this in. My wife seems to think that she, and I think she's right. I think she can really understand what animals are thinking, and they definitely react to her. So it's an amazing thing. I don't think I get the same reaction from animals. I'm kind of indifferent. I think the animals belong out in the wild kingdom, and that's why God gave us houses. So I'm from that ilk, but I also like, I spend my time out with not the animals necessarily, but I spend a lot of time outside. So, but I just think that they have their life. I have mine. and I'm not really interested in what they're up to. So, so let's talk about time now. How long have we been doing the extreme pet thing?
About 25 years.
25 years. And at what point in time did you say, oh, well, I'm going to you? And would you say that you have animal skills that you've developed while you're doing your photography?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And while I mentioned photography, if you have not seen any of Jason's videos, you are really missing out, because Jason, I mean, forget about all what we're talking about with the animals for a second. He is a top-notch photographer. Some of his images, and even this one here, I mean, I'm sure this is just one of your run-of-the-mill collections, but he has so many amazing pictures with so many exotic animals that, you know, just looking at those, you're just going to go, wow, these are incredible. So
I'd like to say that photo that you have there with the baby raccoons,
mm-hmm.
I kind of wish I did have that skill where I could read the little guy's mind. That way I would have known he was going to pee all over me. So thank you for not giving me those skills at that moment. It would have been nice. That was a nice shirt. In fact, I'm wearing that same shirt right now.
Do you, Jason, when you're out up in Canada, do you get a lot of interactions with raccoons?
Yes, all the time.
They are, you know, I'll tell you this very quickly. We were camping up in Orcas Island, you know, the San Juans. And these raccoons, I mean, we have it's called a habitat. It's a very large tent with an open like bay that separates you from all of your equipment. You know, it's over there. And I got up one night hearing somebody wrestling around, and there are these very large raccoons. And I shined the light out. Get out of here, I said, get out. And they just looked at me like, who are you? You know, and they went right back to what they were doing. They ended up taking one of our pans. They took one of my wife's shoes. And then there were these English bikers in the campsite next to us. They took their shoes, and they took this one guy's shoes, and he thought we stole them. So the whole time he's just looking at us suspiciously, and I'm going, no, they took it. So
it's interesting because the Canadian raccoons up here, they seem to like watching a lot of the cooking shows, and they really like eating shoes. So they took the pans, they were cooking them up. They were just, you know, all the shoes. This is those crazy Canadian raccoons. They're nuts up here.
Well, I think that I've heard they have an affinity for soul food. So maybe that's it. So probably another thing that's going to get thrown out in editing. All right. Or not, you know, these cheap jokes, you can use them anytime. All right. So, you are, you're doing your animal photography, and you're really being modest about your skills with animals. And so, at what point do you say, I'm going to go do this Bigfoot thing?
Well, like I said earlier, I've always had a fascination with monsters and ghosts and paranormal, and, you know, the thought that these things could be real. So I wanted to go out and see if I can find these creatures for myself. I've learned that there's no way I'm going to go walking in on a couple of them. It's a matter of them coming to me. Mm-hmm. And that's if they exist, right? I've seen some crazy stuff in the forest. I've heard crazy stuff. And the people I've interviewed have told me crazy, interesting stuff. But yeah, I've always wanted to go out, and I go out hiking and camping all the time anyway. Mm-hmm. Why not go out and do some investigation? A little bit more intense.
You know, I have to tell you this, Jason. My wife and I are watching your, and I'm sorry, we rushed into this interview and I didn't write down the name of the documentary you have on YouTube right now. Can you mention the title?
It's called Searching for Sasquatch, Chapter 1, The Crossing.
Yeah. And again, here, just the photography in that is amazing. But you grew up, did you grow up in Canada?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
And
did.
you grew up in Vancouver, or did you grow up in a small town?
I grew up in Chilliwack, a
Chilliwack.
small
Okay.
town about an hour and a half from Vancouver.
Okay. Don't know the town, know the band. Didn't they do Kiss You All Over
I
back in the
I think so.
70s?
I
See,
think
we
so.
had I grew up in Squim. I don't know, do you know where Squim is?
No.
Port Angeles over on the
Yes.
peninsula?
Yeah.
Okay, so we only had CKLG and we only had Victoria radio stations, right? So we heard all these Canadian bands, which were actually very good. So really good rock. So I have a little bit of Canadian culture in me. So don't think I'm like a complete American. I know who Chilliwack is and the Bay City Rollers. So anyway, let's move on. Now, you're interested in the paranormal, and I just wanted to tell you, watching your video, that Toyota truck, is that yours?
No.
Okay,
No.
because I have that same truck.
Oh, you do?
And I'm going, he has the same truck we have.
That's a
Yeah.
really good
And
friend
then,
of mine. He likes building big
uh,
trucks and going off-roading.
okay. Well, yeah, I'm not that, but I just like that Toyota because it's so dependable. So, all right. So, how did you approach your, did you just say, okay, I'm not doing the extreme pets anymore, now I'm paranormal, or did you just get into it in a gradual sense?
Yeah, gradual. I still do my extreme animal photography and my videos.
Mhm.
It really, I really love meeting the people that live with the amazing animals and hearing their stories about why they love them so much.
Mhm.
It really makes me happy to hear about their stories,
Mhm.
and I can never stop doing that.
Mhm.
Now going after, monsters in the forest, I mean, that's like an adventure,
Mhm.
to be, because I really want Sasquatch to be real. I really want to have an experience with Sasquatch, uh, you know, so I can believe 100%.
Mhm.
Because I'm a skeptic, but I'm open-minded.
Mhm.
There's a percentage of me that does believe that they might be real, but until one walks out of the forest and slaps me in the face, I can't be 100% believer.
Well, then, okay, so I understand that, and from a professional level and all of that. Well, you have to go into it as a skeptic, but you're going up and talking to these First Nations people, and there's no skeptics there. They're all pretty serious about what they've seen, and these are no nonsense people. That they're going to tell you directly as it is. So, how do you come and tell them? Well, yeah, I don't really think there's one, but I want to hear your story. Or how do you balance that?
Well, I go in to the interview with an open mind.
Mm.
I'm not going to say flat to their face, "Hey, look, I
You're
don't believe you,"
lying.
right? I go in and I listen to what they say. I'm basically just there to record their story
Mhm.
and to follow up a little bit on their story. Go off into the areas where they talk about and see if I can find footprints or tree breaks or any. Well, actually, to experience one firsthand, like right in front of me.
Mhm. Well, the I have a couple of comments about your approach. And I like it, first of all, because you do come across, coming across as a skeptic means that leaves you open to, yeah, I'm not going to believe every story I hear. And I really need to see some more evidence. And one thing that I saw on your video on YouTube when you were looking at the footprints in that mud, whatever. First of all, Jason, if you stepped into that mud, you would have sunk. I mean, you would have sunk. That mud is deep.
Yeah.
So whatever stepped on that, if it weighed as much as a Sasquatch, it would have gone down like 3 or 4 feet in that silt. So, I really like the fact that you were skeptical about that, and people can make whatever decision they want. But I was looking at that going, boy, if you ever stepped in that, you have a hard time even getting out. So, and something that heavy would have been sucked in. I mean, they had to been pulled out by a crane or something. So, yeah, so I really enjoyed that. So, I'll ask you this now. I wanted to save it for later, but in these videos, are you by yourself?
Sometimes.
Like,
Sometimes I'm by myself. I do have a couple camera people that do come with me. But at nighttime, they get kind of spooked.
Yeah.
And they think I'm crazy to stay out there. So they go back to either their tent or they, go back to the vehicle if they can walk out that far. And they leave me out there. And then I have my best friend, which is my tripod. Right. And so it follows me around. But yeah, it gets freaky out there for sure. And I cannot lie and say that I don't get scared at times, because your imagination can basically get away from you. And a chipmunk can sound like a grizzly bear.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I go, I've been camping, ever since I was a kid. I grew up on the peninsula, and my wife it drives her crazy. I don't sleep as good anywhere as I do in the woods, right? I hit that sleeping bag or I hit the air mattress and I am out. I sleep all night. And I don't wake up. I don't wake up for anything. And my wife is sitting there going, "What's that? What's that?" And this is not the only, I've had lots of different girlfriends, whatever, being camping. And what's that? What's that? I mean, there is a lot of noises in the forest at night. That's what the animals do. They're out making their living. They're not bothering me. So I don't care what their noise they're making, whatever. And if there's a noise, so what? Somebody's doing something. I don't care. Don't bother me. So that's my opinion. And you can't, unless you have that opinion, if you're going to sit there and go, "Oh, what was that? What was that?" all night, well, you're not going to be any good the next day.
No, not at all.
So do you, I don't see that. I think you're very comfortable in the woods. So you're not really worried about what's that all the time, are you?
No, but when you're literally going into an area where people have said they've seen these big hairy creatures walking around, and knowing that there's cougars and bears, well, actually I was in the wintertime, so there were no bears, but cougars and bobcats, wolverines, a lot of other, animals that can do harm to you. Sometimes, like I said, your imagination can, get the best of you. And especially when you can't see what is making the footsteps through the snow, right? But yeah, if I go camping and I'm in the tent, and usually I sleep pretty good. And also I usually take someone that can outrun. So I'm pretty calm.
Yeah, I got that. I told my wife, I heard that on your thing. I said, I said to my wife, that's what I tell everybody about you. You
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so yes, yeah, and my point is that people camp all the time, not looking for Bigfoot. I mean, I told my wife, there's hundreds of people out in the woods at any given time, camping, doing whatever, not looking for Bigfoot, and they're okay. They don't end up missing or whatever else. So, this goes into another topic that I want to get into. And Jason, this is you talked about your attitude, your opinion of how to maybe catch one of these things, catch evidence of one of these things. And there are a lot of people who say, "Oh, no, we got to be all gung ho and we got to get out there and we're going to chase them down and we're going to hunt them down and we're going to find them that way. And we're going to put our trail cams around." But you don't subscribe to that.
Well, the reason why I'm making so much noise out in the forest is, to let them know that I'm there. If the
Right.
Sasquatches are real and they're out there, they're going to come and they're going to be like, look at this funny blonde guy tripping and falling in the forest. This is better than HBO,
Mhm.
right? And so, to go out there and just march along hoping that you're going to walk in front of one, I don't think that's going to happen. I think um, they're going to have to come to you, and then you're going to have to be able to be on your game and hopefully catch one on video, almost by accident.
Yeah. Well, they say great minds think alike, Jason, and I agree with you 100%. I don't think that you're ever gonna. I mean, okay, so I've interviewed people that have come up on them just by accident. One kid was just walking through the forest, came up to a stream, and there was a big one in California, just drinking out of the stream. And he looked up, what are you doing here? And looked at the kid and and he turned on and walked off. But he didn't have any, he couldn't sense him coming or anything. So I think that you're right. And do you have any conflict with people that say, well, what you're doing is wrong and you should be, because you're really trying to attract them and not hunt them. And I saw you offering them apples and everything. And these are all things that I'm, doing when I'm doing a different kind of investigation. But yeah, I'm for that. I've got graham crackers, I'm taking apples, and I'm just going to take stuff out for them so they understand this interaction is friendly, that I'm bringing you something. I don't
Mhm.
want anything from you, but I just want to, say hi and, give you some stuff. So that's what my attitude is, and I think it's yours as well. And I don't carry weapons. What about you? Hey, speaking of weapons, what about these deadly fashion statements from Encounters USA? T-shirts, hoodies, tank tops, baseball shirts, you name it, we've got it. Available on Amazon, Teespring, TeePublic, and of course at Encounters USA. So don't delay. You're going to want to wear this apparel when you're out looking for the paranormal. Now, back to the action.
No, well, I can't say it's a weapon, but I only have a little pocket knife with me.
Yeah.
Um, but I do believe that anytime someone walks up on a Sasquatch,
Mhm.
I think the environment is perfect, is at a perfect setting. The wind is with you, even the sun, because with the wind, the Sasquatch doesn't smell you and doesn't hear you,
Mhm.
right? Because the wind can take out the sound. The sun, if the sun's in the right location, it may not see the shadow. And if it's used there is a lot of people I've talked to who have seen these hairy creatures by a river, and the running water alone can block out sounds. And as long as you're not singing and yelling, if you're just walking along and you come over a bend and right there, boom, and that is usually a lot of times when people come up on a Sasquatch. I
Mhm.
mean, yes, there are occasional times where the Sasquatch is just coming in to watch you,
Mhm.
but like I said, if you're in the middle of the forest and the Sasquatch is screaming and yelling and throwing rocks and making all this noise and you're able to run away, it's because the Sasquatch wants you to get away.
Mhm.
Because literally, you will, if the Sasquatch wants you, he's going to get you. There's nothing you can do. You can't go up a tree. You can't do nothing, right? Because the Sasquatch will just get you. You're in their territory.
Mhm.
I mean, that's it. They're real, So, we're taking a risk. But just like humans, there's bad humans, there's good humans, right? There's rebel humans. I think all these Sasquatches that people are seeing are either They're either rebellious and they go away from the group to go and explore, or they get kicked out of the group and they're just wandering around. Either or, you know, very seldom do you hear a case where someone, you know, sees 20 or 30 of them all at once, right? It's always either going to be one or two or one and a little one, right?
Yep. Well, that's a very, very interesting aspect of it, because that would really explain, you know, and I don't want to say something that I know nothing about, but in a group you have norms, acceptable behavior. So outside of the group, there's nothing to reinforce those. So if your acceptable behavior is to avoid contact at all costs with these humans, and then these other ones are, you know, outside the group, outside of the circle of trust, then they might go out and grab somebody and say, "Oh, might be some easy meat,
Yeah,
whatever." So they might, you know, cross those social norms. So since we're on that topic, Jason, you are an animal. You've been around animals all this time. There's a lot of talk from myself as well in the community. Is Bigfoot more than just a primate?
well, I mean, you have to think about it. If these creatures are real, they're smart as hell. They're way smarter than just a gorilla or an ape. I mean, we already know that they're smart, but apes and gorillas, they weren't smart enough to hide from man. That's why we know they're there. In fact, you know that just a few months ago, they found a new species of monkey, right? So these Sasquatches, they have to be way more intelligent to be able to avoid us, you know, or we would be seeing them 24/7.
Yep.
Right? It's very much like any of these cryptids. You know, it baffles me about this. I know I'm going off topic, but this giant worm that people say they see in the desert, right, way off in the Middle East. Now, if they're a giant worm, there has to be thousands of them, hundreds of thousands of them, because they're a worm. They're like a giant worm, like a small worm, but giant. And we know that there's millions of worms, like little tiny worms. So why would that be any different with the big giant worm? Right? So there would have to be people being killed by the thousands by these big giant worms that people say they see. So it's just interesting. So with the Sasquatch, if they really want to do harm to humans, there would be way more humans being taken. Like, we'd be easy pickings. I was just walking down the trail, just grab and gone. Just grab. There could be, 20 Sasquatches. They just grab 5 hikers and be gone. Right? If that's the case. So obviously we know that Sasquatches can't be that aggressive. Maybe an occasional one might be.
Yeah. Okay. So we're getting into that territory where, everybody has an idea, and you're going to say that, oh, it's better to try to interact, and somebody's going to come along and say, oh, you're crazy. You need to hunt them down with a gun and get that body and don't let them harm you and all that. And so do you go out and, are you like going to Medellin Falls? Might as well ask that now.
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
I'm not sure yet.
Okay. When you're speaking and talking to people about this, do you get into arguments about you're doing the wrong thing?
No.
And no?
No.
Now, like, nobody's ever said?
Oh, yeah.
Do you say to people, you're doing the wrong thing? This isn't.
No, I do not.
You just.
Because we're talking about creatures that haven't been studied by science. There hasn't been a body. There hasn't been an actual one studied. So why would I want to argue with someone about something that hasn't been caught yet or hasn't been seen.
Yeah.
It's why am I going to tell you you're wrong when I could be wrong?
Yeah.
Right? It's not like we're talking about like the tiger that has been studied and they know lots about them. How am I going to tell you you're wrong about this tiger when I could just easily look it up or whatnot? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So I'm not going to argue with people when people have their ideas about it.
Yeah.
The only thing I do kind of like, I have to really disagree about is the fact that people that have an aggressive interaction with one of these creatures and they run away and then they're telling everyone, oh my gosh, I had this experience with the Sasquatch and I got away and I'm so lucky I got away. I'm like, it's not luck. These creatures wanted you to get away. Because if they didn't want you to get away, you'd be dead.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not really luck. It's you were able to get away because they wanted you to get away.
Okay. So did you do much hunting as a kid?
No, I didn't really do. I mean, with a slingshot.
Yeah.
I went hunting, but I did go with my cousins, and they did the hunting, and
So are you using different? Well, obviously you are using different methods to. Let's say this. You are taking things with it. Your plan is to give them an apple, give them something. What's step 2? I mean, if they take something from Jason, what are you going to do next?
My looks. I'm going to try and attract them with my immense good looks. Just going to stand there and just like, come to me, creatures. Look at this beautiful creature you can have. Take me into your arms.
Yeah, you know I not to take anything away from that. I hope you have another plan.
Yeah, you're right. Those creatures.
No, you're a good-looking guy. Jason, I just want to say that.
Look at me and go, "What the?
Probably why you're on all these movies." You're like who is the guy in Steve McQueen? Kind of like a Steve McQueen, and you actually kind of look like my older brother as well. So who knows?
He's a good-looking guy, I tell you.
Well, yeah, he doesn't look anything like me. So that's the thing.
Well, I don't know what my next plan is going to be. I am working on chapter 3, but chapter 2, it's in the can, and I'm getting ready to launch it. And there's a lot of really cool stuff that is in that one.
Well, what? Hold on, Jason. Let's go back here. Where I want to find out. I want to know what is the plan. You want to make contact. You've made contact. Now what? What are you going to do? Are you going to go tell people? Are you going to make friends with these Sasquatch? Are you going to tell them, hey, man, run for your life?
Well, I mean, the first thing is I need to get video of both the creature and the footprints at the same time. Right? Because a lot of times people, they get video, but they don't get footprints. Right? Or they get footprints, but no creature, like no video of the creature. So for people to believe, you need to at least get kind of the combination of both. If you can't get the body, you need to get, the video of the creature. And then obviously the creature is going to run off. You keep the camera going and you walk over to where the footprints would be and try and get video of the footprints. And if you can cast them, that would be great. Am I going to make friends with these creatures? I mean, that would be nice. I mean, that would be great. I will, when that time comes, if that happens, I will do my best to try and be friends with them. I don't know what's going to happen if or when I come across one, if I do come across one.
Well, I see these documentaries, and you're the only guy I've ever seen, because every time when you hear these calls, that, there's something yelling at, calling back, or these people hear these calls or they hear a noise or whatever, but they don't do anything. They don't say, "Hey,
Yeah.
hello," they go, "Oh, what was that? What was that?" And then they're all getting their equipment out, but they don't try to interact, and
Yeah.
you're trying to interact. So I thought, this guy's probably doing the right thing, because you really are trying to interact with these things. And my question is, and maybe you don't, have an answer for this, but I think that there should, like, everybody that goes out and does this should have some kind of a plan in case you do make contact. Because the one thing that, I mean, if so, you bring apples, they take the apple. What happens after that? What if they want more? What are you going to do? What
Give them
it's
another
like a chess match. And people should have, because eventually somebody's going to find him. And if you just give them an apple and say, "Well, here, I'm going to take some pictures of you," maybe they're going to take that camera, because they want more stuff. So
Yeah.
anyway, I just was wondering if you had any contingency plans. But okay, so that aside, you get your proof. What do you do next?
Well, it depends. If I get the proof while filming my documentary, I would probably hold on to it until I get the documentary done,
Okay.
and then reveal it in that sense,
Okay.
and have all my eggs in the basket. But yeah, I do believe that when someone does come across these creatures and we can prove that they exist 100%, I think the forest industry will have to change a little bit,
Mhm.
right? Because there will be now proof that there is actual, forest people living in Mother Nature's playground.
Mhm.
Right. So it's going to be kind of a gong show at the beginning, right?
So, all right. Well, we've got a little bit of time left. So let's talk about Jason. Jason, your Netflix thing is coming out in August. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's not on Netflix yet. I'm still waiting to hear if it's going to be on Netflix.
Okay.
And I'm hoping it's going to be on Amazon. It's on a few other streaming platforms right now. The new one, people are going to love. I'm hoping people love it. I did get a howl in the middle of the night.
Mhm.
Uh, there was at one point I was filming with my FLIR, and it was all yellow, and it was way below zero, and I could hear something walking around in the forest, but I couldn't see it. Not even with infrared, I couldn't even see. But on the FLIR, when I looked at it later on, I could see where there was a hint of red that looked like it was pacing back and forth of in front. And I was on a Zoom, so I was shooting about 60, 70 feet into the forest. And I could hear the footprints. I could hear something crunching. And I could see on the FLIR something with a hint of red going back and forth. And at one point, it went this way and then shot back that way.
Hmm.
And then I wanted to go out and investigate a little bit further, but I wasn't sure if maybe it was what was making that noise was could be a cougar or maybe a rogue bear that came out of hibernation. So the next morning it had snowed and had blanket all over that area. But I have the raw footage from the FLIR that I put in the documentary, which I'm going to show. I also interviewed a medium, a lady who channels Pax, which is a god being that she channels, and this god being actually writes. She writes what he wants him to tell the world. Now I'm standing behind the camera, listening to her talk, and she asked Pax the question of what Sasquatch is. And what she told me was unbelievable and just blew me away. And I'm standing behind the camera going, wow, this could literally change everything we ever thought we knew about human civilization if what she's saying is true. And she actually wrote out on a piece of paper while Pax was writing what Sasquatch is. And the one thing that she said that Pax told her was that Sasquatch can cloak themselves and almost be invisible. Mm-hmm. They can be like right in front of us and we wouldn't be able to see them. So it was fascinating. And so that's all in the documentary that's coming out in only a couple months.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, yeah, I'm glad you didn't. I was going to ask you to say what Sasquatch is, but I'm kind of glad you left it a little bit open because, there's obviously something there. Now, what about the guys who say Sasquatch is just warm and fuzzy and has a system of writing and communication and all of this stuff? Do you agree with that, or what do you think?
I mean, the possibility is open. I'd like to see those writings that they say that they do. I like to check those out. If these people think that they can write, I'd like to see what their writings are.
Well, I'm basically look up Tom Cantrell. I've did a video about him out at Marble Mount a couple of years ago, and he did a really nice presentation of glyphs. And the only problem with that is that, okay, sure, but it's also very easy for somebody to go and put a couple of sticks together and say, yeah, that's or find a couple of sticks together and say, oh, Bigfoot is leaving this writing. So anyway, but he did a very interesting presentation and really leaves it all open because, you do make the ultimate point that everybody has to take into account. And that is they haven't let us find him yet. So they must be pretty smart, and they're probably smarter than we are. So
the only argument I have with the cloaking.
What's that?
The only argument I have about them being able to cloak is if that's the case, that's fine. If they can cloak themselves, that's fine. But some, people say, well, Sasquatch, they want to be left alone. Well, if they can cloak themselves, why would they ever uncloak themselves? Why would they want to be why would they make it so people could see them? Why not be cloaked 24/7? I've heard stories from people who say that they can go in between dimensions. That's fine and dandy. But why would they ever come out of that dimension and be seen by us? Right? If that's the case, right?
Well, that's the $64,000 question. Yeah. And we could, it's all speculation. I tend to think that maybe they don't have a choice, that there is and I don't want to get into the Skinwalker Ranch thing, but I've done plenty of videos about it. And I think that maybe some of these creatures, they don't have a choice. And maybe some people as well. You could be walking down the street one day and you're in another dimension, you're in another time, and you're gone for good. Where do these people go when they disappear? And
so exactly.
Maybe it's the same thing with the Bigfoot and the Dogman and the aliens. Maybe they're voluntarily moving back and forth, or maybe, and I'm going to give you one example, and I'm not going to keep you too much longer, Jason, but I have a picture, and it's pretty famous, of a red Sasquatch in Manitoba, right? And it's just sitting there. I don't know, and I'll share it with you, but basically it was taken from a trail cam. So there's one picture, and the Sasquatch is sitting there. There's no picture of the Sasquatch coming. There's only a picture of the Sasquatch sitting there. So it's as if it showed up there and moved it, and the thing took the picture. It didn't just come in and sit down.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it would have, all that footage would have been there. There was one, and of course, yes, it could be a hoax, and it probably is, whatever. But if it's not, then, and that's for real, then it looks like something showed up, moved, and got a picture taken.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
it's interesting.
yeah.
My next documentary is called "Searching for Sasquatch," Chapter 2, "The Watchers." That's when the next one is. And if people want to check out my animal adventures on YouTube, they could easily go to my YouTube channel, which is Photo Warrior, which is APHOTOWARRIOR.
And don't worry, I'm going to put all of these links on the video, and there will also be links in the description.
Yeah.
So is there any other way? Do you have a website or anything, Jason?
The website is, it's Life Through My Lens.
Okay.
And .ca.
Oh, .ca. Okay.
Yeah, .ca.
All right. Do you need a passport
Canadians,
for that,
right?
or do you have to have a Molson Canadian or something in your hand when you?
Yeah. I take photos with this hand, and I have a beer in this hand. Canadian Molson.
Yep. Okay. I see. All right. Well, you're going to be a fun guy to know. I'll tell you that right now, Jason. So do you ever come down here to the provinces, as you people in the empire say?
You mean down into Washington?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I go there once in a while. I mean, right now the border's closed, but once it opens again, I will make my way down there again, and I'll have to come out and say hi. Yeah,
I want to take you to some of my spots. So.
Oh yeah, that would be great. I'd love to do that.
Yep.
I'm hoping.
So, Jason, I'm into. I think there's a connection between the 411 thing and the missing people and some of these Sasquatch. And you've really, you shed some light on a lot of stuff. And in this interview, I've heard more wisdom about looking for the paranormal and Bigfoot than I've heard in a long time. So it's really nice to listen to your, rational approach. So,
well, I'm hoping to expand to do more monsters, more creatures, like the Dogman.
Yeah.
Like those worms, like the Yeti, like the, all these different creatures, Loch Ness Monster, to be able to do documentaries on all of them. Jason Kenzie style.
Yeah.
Okay,
so Jason Kenzie, I'm gonna close this off with this last question, and that is, you seem to work alone. You're like Lone Wolf McQuade. Is that how you like it to be, or are you going to do some joint ventures with anybody?
Yep. In Chapter 2, I team up with my buddy Mickey, and we went off into the forest. I do like going off by myself, but I don't mind teaming up with other people which like the same kind of things. If they can keep up to me, more the merrier.
Yeah.
So.
And do you think you're going to be more likely to find a Sasquatch or anything paranormal in a group or by yourself?
Well, either or. Could find them in a group. The good thing about working as a team is we can spread out, right? We can communicate that way. We can surround the area, right? I mean, hopefully I don't become one of the 411.
Yeah. Well, we all hope that. So.
Missing pet photographer goes missing in the Canadian wilderness.
Well, I'm mixed on that, because I think if that were to happen, my book sales would go up. So, it's a mixed bag for me. Maybe you could write a book. So. Well, all right, Jason, I'm going to give you your reprieve now. I really appreciate you being on the show. I know your time is busy. I know you do a lot of podcasts now, and you are a busy guy. So thanks for doing Encounters USA.
Thank you so much for having me here, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.
All right. And yeah, me as well. So for everybody out there, this is Jason Kenzie, and I will put all of his videos, whatever websites in the description. And of course, you'll see them as you're watching the video. So for everybody out there, thank you, Jason, for doing Encounters USA.
Thank you so much.
And
I will see you later.
Yes. And I'm going to have to throw in my old byline, and that is, if you're out there with Jason Kenzie up in Canada, always watch your back. Watching Matthew Hines here. Just want to remind you, if you like this kind of content, subscribe to this channel, whether you're listening on podcast or watching on YouTube. Also, go to encountersusa.com for more videos and podcasts, all archived for your convenience. Also, we have a wonderful Encounters USA blog, as well as an Encounters USA paranormal shop for all of your paranormal apparel. So, not only can you watch your back, you can put some of our designs on yours as well. So we'll see you on down the road on Encounters USA.